Welcome to a journey like no other, a journey that might challenge everything you thought you knew about life and death. Imagine for a moment that everything you've been told about what happens when we die is wrong. Now, picture an ancient secret book that claims to reveal not just what happens at the moment of death, but how to navigate the afterlife itself. This is no ordinary text. It's a guide that takes you through the threshold of existence, leading you from life into death and perhaps back again. But there's a catch. If you miss even one step, you could become trapped forever in the realms beyond. You're about to open the Tibetan Book of the Dead, a sacred text written over 1,000 years ago, offering not just wisdom about dying, but a roadmap to the deepest truths of existence. Once you glimpse its secrets, there's no turning back. Are you ready to confront the ultimate reality? Despite all the advances of modern science, there remains one mystery that continues to evade us. What happens after we die? We still don't have clearer answers than the ancient Tibetans did. This is part of why the Tibetan Book of the Dead continues to hold such power and intrigue. It doesn't just ask what happens after death, it dares to address the most profound question of human existence. What happens to our consciousness when we die? Monks, mystics, and even scientists have long been fascinated by this ancient text. Why? Because it offers a radically different perspective. The body's death does not end consciousness. Instead, it continues its journey through invisible realms where opportunities for spiritual liberation or rebirth await. What makes this even more intriguing is how closely the teachings of the Tibetan Book of the Dead align with modern accounts of near-death experiences. People who have died and returned to life often describe moments of peace, visions of spiritual beings, and encounters with a brilliant light. Could these experiences be more than mere coincidence? Could they be glimpses into the deeper structure of consciousness itself? If we understand this ancient text, could we unlock truths about our true nature and the very essence of who we are? This text might hold the key to bridging the gap between modern science and ancient spiritual wisdom, offering us a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe. But here's the twist. The Tibetan Book of the Dead isn't only about what happens after we die. It's just as much about how we live. It pushes us to live with a sense of purpose, clarity, and compassion, qualities that many of us only grasp fleetingly in our busy, distracted lives. It invites us to confront mortality and recognize the impermanence of everything we hold dear. It's a guide not only for the dying, but also for the living, urging us to live each moment with awareness and presence. As we begin this journey, you may feel a mix of awe and apprehension, and that's by design. The text is meant to stir something deep within us, challenging us to confront uncomfortable truths. But as we explore this ancient wisdom together, I encourage you to keep an open mind. To truly understand the Tibetan Book of the Dead, we must first explore its origins and the visionary teacher who brought this profound wisdom into the world. Are you ready to meet the master behind this sacred knowledge? At the heart of the Tibetan Book of the Dead is a concept that applies to all of us, not just those at the brink of death, the Bardo. In Tibetan Buddhism, the Bardo is any state of transition, a period when the familiar world falls away and a new path of transformation emerges. It's not just a moment between life and death. How many times in your life have you found yourself in a moment of uncertainty, standing between what was and what could be? Those moments of doubt, when you're not sure what comes next, are bardos. The Tibetan Book of the Dead reveals that life itself is filled with bardos. It divides the Bardo experience into 3 main phases, each representing a different stage of awareness with its own set of challenges and opportunities for growth. The first Bardo is the moment of death itself, but instead of seeing it as the end, imagine it as a moment of heightened clarity, where the true nature of life and consciousness becomes vividly apparent. The second Bardo is the Bardo of visions, where you are flooded with surreal, sometimes overwhelming images, both beautiful and terrifying. But here's the key. These visions are not external. They are projections of your own mind. We'll dive deeper into this in a moment. The third Bardo is the threshold of rebirth. Here, you stand at the edge of a new existence. Your consciousness freed from the physical body, where every thought, desire, and action shapes your future incarnation. The revolutionary idea of the Tibetan Book of the Dead is that these bardos are not reserved for after death. They happen in our lives all the time. Every major decision, every transformative experience is a kind of Bardo. Those moments of indecision when you're caught between two paths, the times when you're fully absorbed in something and time seems to vanish. Those are moments in the Bardo of visions. And every time you face a choice that could change your life, you're experiencing your own Bardo of rebirth. Now let's explore further. What really happens in that crucial moment when life begins to slip away? The first Bardo, the moment of death, is the most crucial of all. Imagine standing at the edge of everything you've ever known, facing a light so bright and all-encompassing that it feels like the source of all truth. The life you've just left behind begins to fade, and you stand on the threshold of a new reality. Here, the ancient wisdom of Tibetan Buddhism and modern near-death research meet. Are you ready to discover what lies beyond that shining light? Tibetan Buddhism teaches that death is not just a biological event but a portal, a doorway that leads either to liberation or reincarnation. As your pulse slows, your breath fades, and your physical senses quiet, your awareness becomes more alive than ever. This is when the clear light appears, a dazzling, pure light that represents the ultimate truth of reality. It is not an illusion or comforting delusion. It is the true nature of consciousness itself. This is your moment to see the world as it truly is, unfiltered by the distractions of everyday life. The stakes are high, though. If you can recognize this light as your true nature, as your consciousness itself, you can achieve freedom in that very moment, breaking free from the endless cycle of life and death. But for many, this opportunity is fleeting. The light may be overwhelming, even frightening, and if you are not prepared to see it with awareness, it will disappear, much like a dream fading upon waking. This fear pulls the mind back into the world of the Bardos, away from enlightenment, and back toward the cycle of rebirth. But here's the powerful secret of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The end of life offers the most potent opportunity for liberation. Even the most seasoned spiritual practitioners spend their entire lives preparing for this final test of consciousness. What if you could prepare for it too? What if your last moments were filled with clarity and freedom instead of fear and confusion? The text also reveals something incredible. These opportunities are not limited to death. In life, you can catch glimpses of this clear light through mindfulness and meditation. These rare moments of transcendence are like training sessions, preparing you to meet the final moment with awareness and courage. Through years of practice, Tibetan Buddhists train themselves to recognize this light in every moment of their lives. The more you practice mindfulness and meditation, the better equipped you will be to recognize the clear light when it appears, whether in life or at the moment of death. But even for those who are not yet ready to fully embrace the light, the journey continues into realms of vivid, powerful sensations. This is the second Bardo, the Bardo of visions, where your deepest desires, fears, and unresolved emotions take form in startlingly real ways. Whether they are peaceful or terrifying, these visions are not external forces, they are projections of your own mind. Every figure you encounter, whether a serene deity or a fearsome creature, is a reflection of your own psyche. The question is, can you face these visions without running away? Can you see them as mirrors of your own mind, acknowledging them without fear? If you can, you will find freedom. But for most, these visions are too overwhelming. Instead of recognizing them as aspects of themselves, they recoil in fear, and the cycle of reincarnation continues. Every deity, every demon, is a mirror that asks you, will you face it with awareness, or will you turn away? The second Bardo invites you to confront your own mind, to face the truths, both beautiful and terrifying, that lie within. It's not about testing your faith or punishing you. It's an invitation to transcend the limitations of your mind and find liberation. But only if you're ready to face it head-on. But why should we care about this at this point in our lives? Because all you are now carrying inside of you is reflected in everything you experience in this Bardo. These images aren't reserved for the deceased every day. They are mirror images of your inner self that continue to shape and impact your decisions and behaviors. The forces you will encounter in the hereafter are the same ones that are within you now. Wrath, fear, compassion, and peace. This Bardo urges you to face those influences while you still have the opportunity to grow and change. What would happen if you started to see all of your goals and fears as being guided by these gods, who are there to educate you and show you what you need to overcome? There are clear connections between these teachings and the characteristics of the human mind, according to psychologists like Carl Jung. According to Jung, the gods and devils included in the Tibetan Book of the Dead are universal symbols of our collective unconscious that represent archetypes inside each of us. We are already surrounded by these forces, whether we are aware of them or not. As he noted, gods and demons are projections of the unconscious, powerful and inescapable until understood as parts of ourselves. They are not only ethereal images, they are potent facets of our daily awareness that are just waiting to be recognized. There is more to the second Bardo than just confronting fear. It involves combining all of your mental faculties. Is it possible for you to see your worst aspects with empathy? Can you face your uncertainties, anger and fears without allowing them to rule you? Realizing that all of these forces are reflections of your own self and mental projections is the first step toward emancipation. However, this also serves as a warning to people who do not see these entities as reflections of themselves. It may be a scary experience. The mind gets stuck in its projections, mistaking its own inventions for outside dangers because it is unable to understand its own nature. It's similar to losing yourself in a nightmare that you created. The stakes become significantly greater at this point. You run the danger of sinking further into cycles of fear, illusion and rebirth if you don't identify these projections as your own thoughts. They are confined by the exact attachments and aversions you are unable to confront. In the second Bardo, the self is revealed in all its intensity and rawness. You can see what's within of you via this wonderful mirror. This is an opportunity, a potent one, to face and change, to see oneself unfiltered, to accept every aspect of your thinking. The path will only get more difficult if you ignore this reality and run away in terror. So, consider this. Are you prepared to have your soul exposed? Can you embrace anything that shows up when you confront the divine mirror? Because the decisions you make here will determine the very essence of your life, and the following phase delves even farther. Now picture yourself adrift in an undefined ocean. Even if the life you know is gone, you are nonetheless drawn into a new world by a force as magnetic as gravity. The third phase of the trip after death is the Bardo of Rebirth, which you have entered. Every idea, unresolved emotion and karmic imprint you have in this world becomes the driving force for your subsequent existence. Now that your awareness has been stripped naked, it is a magnet drawing in the forces that will mold your life in the future. The stakes are really high. It is the essence of who you are that is going to write the next chapter of your soul. Passively drifting through the afterlife is not what this is. The process of creativity is intensive and chaotic. All of your decisions, desires, and suppressed fears suddenly emerge, creating the world that lies ahead. There are no escape routes or filters in the Bardo of Rebirth. As you create the blueprint for your rebirth, you are the canvas and the painter. Karma manifests itself in this world, guiding you toward the life you were meant to lead based on all of your past actions and unresolved issues. Imagine yourself encircled by a whirlpool of images, faces, landscapes, and even whole universes, all of which may be your soul's journey. These aren't just any pictures. They are the culmination of your internal condition. Kindness, self-awareness, and wisdom may help you see bright, welcoming visions that point you in the direction of an opportunity-rich life. However, the images get darker and more turbulent if fear, wrath, or attachment take center stage. Every possible reincarnation tugs on the unseen strands of karma, guiding you in the direction of the life with which you are most compatible. This is not an externally imposed exam. You may see the results of your actions, ambitions, and goals in this mirror of your own thoughts. This is where it becomes even more intense. Your rebirth is directly impacted by the decisions you make in this Bardo and the mindset you maintain. Your mind turns like a heavenly compass, pointing toward the area that most closely matches your present condition. Imagine the clarity, or lack thereof, while you're being pulled toward one life or another by a whirlpool of memories and feelings. Can you locate the serenity at the core of clarity that will lead you to freedom instead of captivity? Or will you be destined for yet another cycle of life and death, carried away by your own unresolved karma? Now think about this. The sights you see in the Bardo of Rebirth are more than simply far-off pictures. They are gates and doors into worlds that hum with your mental energy. The strength of the feelings you've carried throughout your life, as well as any unsolved anxieties, attachments, or desires, are all reflected in each vision. It reflects the karmic weight you bear and is akin to a reel of all your lifetimes, offering a cinematic view into potential possibilities. Every doorway has a question at its core. Will you go through it, or will you take a step back, observing the road with awareness and purpose? You don't intentionally select a new existence the way you could choose a new pair of shoes, according to this Bardo. Every action, thought, and intention you have made during your life has accrued karma, which pulls you in the direction of a life that resonates with the vibration of your soul. And there is still a sliver of control and a glimmer of choice, even if your conscious mind may not be guiding. You may still be able to affect the result if you can remain cool and clear-headed. You may be able to completely overcome the temptation if you can maintain your objectivity and acknowledge that every image is a creation of your mind. This process goes beyond just believing in an afterlife in Tibetan Buddhism. It serves as a reminder of how important our actions are in this life right now. What if every deed of kindness you do and every mindful minute you spend shapes not just this life, but many more to come? The third Bardo compels us to face a significant reality. We are continuously generating the karma that will influence the path of our souls. Every choice we make has an impact on not just today, but also tomorrow, since our lives are intertwined. Here's a question though. How can you escape if you're caught in attachment, rage, or fear patterns? According to Tibetan Buddhism, you may change the very energy that drives you forward by practicing mindfulness, meditation, and conscious living. Avoiding harmful behavior and wanting to be good are not enough. It involves having a thorough awareness of your thoughts, identifying the underlying reasons for your behavior, and clearly addressing those reasons. You are less likely to be caught up in the raging waves of the Bardo of rebirth if you approach each idea with more mindfulness. The Bardo of reincarnation teaches that karma is neither a reward nor a punishment when the time comes. It is only a rule of the cosmos, a projection of our own thoughts into the material world. In this manner, each conscious moment you develop in life is a step toward freedom, and a means of directing yourself toward a wise and clear future. Consider getting ready for death as if it were the most significant adventure you would ever take. Not a terrible conclusion, but a significant chance for change. This is not only a lyrical notion, it is a fundamental aspect of Tibetan Buddhism. According to them, life is a training field where every thought, deed, and breath gets you ready for the big shift. Imagine being able to handle death with the same awareness and expertise as life. What if each mindfulness practice served as preparation for the most amazing journey of your life? Consider it. Tibetan Buddhism provides a series of practices that enable the living as well as the dying to gain the compassion, clarity, and courage necessary to face the future. Consciousness transmission is one of the most potent of these techniques. Imagine your thoughts pointing toward enlightenment like an arrow as you approach death. Transference of consciousness has nothing to do with fear or survival. It involves deliberately focusing your attention outside of this reality, while simultaneously letting go of it. Could this age-old method hold the secret to freedom and serenity, regardless of how life turns out? Here's where it becomes useful. Meditate on impermanence first thing in the morning. Everything changes when one realizes that life is valuable and short. It makes every decision more deliberate and every experience more vivid. It's as if you're teaching yourself to see life from an eternal standpoint. What if you saw every day as a unique chance to develop, love, and completely enjoy life rather than fearing the end? Tibetan Buddhists believe that a strong sense of clarity and resilience is produced by this daily reminder of impermanence. You are thus ready, composed, and able to let go when the time comes. The Tibetan method of developing compassion, known as Tonglen, is another crucial exercise. Imagine taking in other people's pain and then giving them love and healing in exchange. It may seem easy, yet it's a profound method of enlarging your heart and dispelling selfishness. Being nicer isn't the only goal of this exercise. It's about seeing how interrelated all creatures are and tearing down the boundaries that separate you from other people. Compassion is not a luxury in Tibetan Buddhism. It is a need for surviving the Bardos, because a knowing and loving heart may turn fear into freedom when confronted with afterlife glimpses. Think about the function of mantras, which are vibrations of ancient sounds that have been recited for thousands of years. They are more than just words. Higher levels of consciousness are synchronized with your mind by these frequencies. Imagine the serenity and concentration that result from reciting these holy words. Every one of them prepares your mind for the Bardo's changes. Imagine them as heavenly tuning forks that will help you align your thoughts with the universe's rhythms. In addition to preparing for death, Tibetan Buddhists utilize mantras to live more intentionally and establish a strong connection with the present. Daily mantra practice helps you develop mental habits that will enable you to confront life and death with courage and clarity. Let's now zoom out to see the larger image. There is more to these Tibetan customs than only spiritual exercises. They are instruments for completely changing your perspective on life. Your viewpoint radically changes when you begin to see every moment as a chance to be ready for death. Every little deed of compassion, each conscious breath, and each instant of awareness adds to the jigsaw and leads you to liberation. So consider this. How are you going to get ready for your own Bardo? What decisions do you have today that will influence the course of your soul's journey going forward? The teachings of Bardo are not limited to the terminally ill. They are also for the living. You start to approach life with more clarity, purpose, and compassion when you live with the knowledge that death is inevitable and that every moment is valuable. It has nothing to do with morbid end obsession. It's about realizing how your current manner of living affects how you go into the next phase, whatever it may be. And while you develop these habits, consider this. How can I be ready right now to navigate the Bardos with serenity and clarity? Because how you live ultimately decides how smoothly you walk through the Bardo of rebirth, not death itself.